his face, just like 6 months worth of work, because he was hiding this reveal to this moment, just drained out of his face. It was, and I knew
I
at that
just slammed
moment,
the laptop shut.
just like, that's all we got.
This is my 4th cup of coffee, so I'm like rocket fueled up and ready to go.
It's your 4th lap.
If you see me start buzzing out of my seat, that's why. Cool, man. So
That was great.
Derrick Wood,
That's me.
your resume, pretty impressive, right? Let me see. We got Lowe's, Home Improvement,
Yep.
Staples, a long time.
Yeah, a couple times.
Walgreens, right?
Walgreens is a client for sure.
So you've worked with a ton of big companies.
I've fallen into a lot of good luck working for some big brands and pretty cool experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to the 90s. Yeah.
Wild, right?
Yeah.
It's a different time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember when I was thinking about this yesterday.
Yep.
Is when I started, 10 years ago, corporate. I never used my calendar on Outlook. And like that's just
Didn't need it.
that's not questionable today. You have to have it all linked
It's sad.
together.
You live by it.
Yep. And I just had a big
unfortunate.
paper one that was on my desk that I would doodle on, put notes on.
That was never wrong.
Yeah.
It was always up.
Until one day it was wrong. I said, I don't have that in my calendar. They said, look at your Outlook. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how. I play with pixels and crayons.
awesome.
So Excel sheets and Microsoft does not agree with
man.
my makeup. So you've always
great.
been in the creative realm.
I have. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What was the earliest creative thing that you were into?
It's funny. I started, I was going to graduate and teach computer science. I was originally going to teach French, and that didn't work out so well. No, my first 2 years of college was just 15th and 16th French history and literature. I was like, this is not what I'm signing up for. So, I graduated and I happened to know how to use the Mac.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. I had no background in advertising or design or copy, nothing. Happened to hit a temp agency that was looking for someone who could come into an ad agency and help with a Mac. And that took off and I stayed with 2-week assignment, turned into 7 years.
Wow.
And I got to see the birth of .com and interactive and all that was happening around the same time.
Yeah, man. It's wild.
It was wild.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
That's one of the things, though, I think is great about what you've done is you've kept up with everything as it's changed. I think a pitfall for a lot of people, probably regardless of the industry, is you figure out the one thing you're good at and you keep hammering it. And you keep hammering it. And you always go back to it. And it's good to have a stable or a tool belt of things you can pull out, use as needed. But the time that, in the time that we've worked together, I mean, you've just opened up the aperture to beyond traditional. I'm sure it was there already to a degree, but I think all of us kind of opened up the aperture on these new platforms and things, and you've really run with it.
Yeah, I had a fear of being a 50-year-old creative director, and I'm living it. I just saw, I guess, in my ad days, I saw a lot of kind of tired, guys who are running the same bits, the same tricks, and they did not want to learn anything else. They were print guys.
Yeah.
Print's going to be here forever. And it is, thankfully.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just, it hasn't developed. Right. So, interactive came along. I hopped on that, and that became the beginning of a massive wave of learning a ton of new stuff. And, I've always been curious, problem solver and curiosity. So I've been able to lean into things like video and live events and experiential. And, it's been great. I met a lot of fantastic people, moved me around the world, and worked for some really cool brands.
I think one of the greatest things that you've honestly, and I'm not going to just kiss your behind.
That's okay.
But
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
You give me coffee and compliments.
You look fantastic today.
Thanks, babe.
Yep. Your networking and your curiosity work together.
Yeah.
Right. And you're so good at putting people together. that's an interesting idea. You should go talk to this person. And maybe 9 times out of 10, nothing comes of it. But man, when it does, it just really opens up new doors. And that's something that I've always appreciated about you. Like you've always been, and in a very hands-off sort of way, you're like, you guys go talk to each other, see what you can make out of these Legos. And maybe it's cool, maybe it's nothing, but it's worth the effort. And I think that step of effort is huge for collaboration and creativity. And plus it opens up just how many more people you know and trust creatively.
Totally. So, and that's something I've it probably is not intentional. It was probably I didn't know how to do something, so I found someone else who knew how to do it. But really just to give people a chance to do something for themselves and to be surprised at what they can produce. After a while, you're like, you've done everything. Like you've done all the things. Doing it again doesn't make you better. It blocks you. It's blocking someone else. So, the first time going through is fun to experience it and explore it. But watching someone else do it, or like you said, making that connection to go, when you put you're awesome and you're awesome, you put these two people together, like I can't wait to, I don't know what this is going to look like, but I can't wait to see. Yeah. And, thankfully it's worked a lot of the times.
Yeah. I mean, when we worked on a lot of the YouTube stuff together, you really it was so funny at first because we'd work on presentations for days and you'd look at it and be like, yeah, that makes sense. Go.
It's all the prep work.
Yeah. And I think it's also the confidence of like changing as you move.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Like here's a stumbling block we didn't anticipate, but it's not overwhelming. It's just just a slight maneuver and then you're back on track.
Yep.
So what do you think with so we're talking about going through the different phases of marketing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Through the years. What's your take on AI?
I think AI for creative is going to be really interesting. I think what I see it happening now is I see most marketers looking at it as cost savings and a way to cut the creative team out. When I think of what AI can do, I don't love it in the advertising space. I love it in medical and science, where the vastness of crunching a tremendous amount of data and looking for patterns is more valuable than in marketing. I think if you do that to marketing, my fear is it homogenizes everybody. So just as Google and Google keywords are the same things that you and your competitors are all buying, I think AI has a possibility of just homogenizing and standardizing everyone's output. So I think brands are going to get lost.
Do you think there's going to be like a loss of resonance because of it? I think because of what you're saying, there is going to be this homogenized approach that people are just going to instantly tune out. Like, oh, that's AI. They're going to immediately know, just like now people are smart and they can see an ad, like that's an ad.
Yeah.
And they immediately tune out because they know it's an ad. So, for a while, the trick was, let's make this look not like an ad. I can see the same thing happening with it there. And I also think, it's going to keep improving. And I was talking to someone the other day. We were trying to find a project. We were talking about a project where they wanted to make a lot of it in 3D, but then composite with photography. I have a huge background in that. I'm like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's going to be too expensive.
Yeah.
It's going to take too long. And when you can control everything in a scene, you will, which just ratchets up the price and time. Anyway, point is, I was talking to two of my friends and like, we just use AI for the backgrounds. Like it's not there yet. I mean, it'll get there, but it's not there yet. And so, and my point was, if I say make me a wall, whatever. The wall may have bricks that are 1 foot by 2 feet. The specifications won't be correct. It's not specific enough. And it was funny because, and these guys, but they were both like, no one's going to care. I'm like, believe me, the people buying it and the people selling it are going to care.
Oh, for sure.
It needs to be specific. So then that was followed up with a different conversation. And there was a guy locally who was working with a group and they're changing the way they build the AI. So it's not just text prompts.
Okay.
But now you can take pictures and put them in there too. So you can say, use this tile, use this car.
Yeah.
And it will actually give it much more specificity. And that's why they're doing it that way. So it'll just be interesting. Now that's probably going to happen in 3 months, and then a month and a half from there, that'll be obsolete. So who knows?
Yeah,
like it's going to keep ramping
know.
up. But yeah, I think I'm not worried about it.
I'm not.
Maybe
either.
I should be.
I think what I hear the pitches are it's a time savings and unlimited assets.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not a fan of performance marketing. I've ranted on that plenty of times before. I feel like it takes the uniqueness of a brand out and just gets to just a ton of assets, and it's just throwing it's a spray and pray. I'm just going to blast this thing with as many assets as I can find, and the ones that are good will be the ones that people click on, or engage with. And I feel like that's a waste of time and energy. And even if it's generative AI, where it's just going to build all the assets for you, I don't know. I feel like the brands are going to lose on this thing. And the pitches that I've heard coming in from the likes of Adobe and all the other, AI stock houses, and all the third party vendors who are kind of riding the wave, it's like you can do this by yourself, right? Kind of the Canva model. Like you don't need a whole design team. And so I think people lead with I got pushback from my creative director. I got pushback from the team, or they don't have the time and resources to do it. So AI is going to replace them. I just don't think that's going to work.
Yeah. I mean, you still need good ingredients, right?
Even that's how AI works. I mean, it generates off of, it's not like there's predictive AI and then there's generative AI. And the predictive is more what I guess performance marketing has been trying to do for a while.
Yeah.
But I think performance marketing is it's a cop out for people who aren't marketers. And it's a pitch from the vendor.
Yeah.
Google wants your money.
Yeah.
Hard stop.
Of course. Yeah. It's
Facebook
a business.
wants your money. Hard stop.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to do all the work for you. You have to sign the PO.
Yep.
I want marketers to be smarter than that.
But back up, right? You still need, we've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there with a terrible brief or no brief at all.
Yeah.
And someone saying, I want something that's amazing.
Just
make it awesome.
Yeah.
Just hit the awesome button. And I think we all know if you don't have that idea up front, at least some sort of an idea, you don't have to have it fully baked, right? That's what people are for. But you have to have the idea. I don't know if, I think that idea that's going to resonate with people is going to change quickly. And I mean, it makes sense AI would be able to keep up. I struggle with that part of it too. So just like if you had a terrible creative director who gave terrible direction, if you're not feeding AI what it needs, the work is, if you can't articulate what you want your message to be, whether it's a person or AI doing it, it's not going to be right. It's not going to resonate.
It's garbage in, garbage out still.
Garbage in, garbage. Yeah, totally.
If I haven't seen a brief, I haven't seen a brief that addresses AI. I've seen just the promise that AI is going to solve all your marketing things. At the same time, the investment it's going to take to get AI to be the solution for all of marketing is not worth the return. It's not worth the return.
So that's a great point. How do you look at return of investment? Because there's different models out there.
Yeah.
And you've already said that you know that the brand affinity is worth something.
Totally.
Even if it's hard to calculate.
Yeah.
How would you look at ROI on different advertising? And I get it, man. It's tough because there's different kinds.
It's massive. Yeah, it's massive. I look at it as, I guess at the simplest point, if it's your money, I always go back to, if it's my money, am I going to put the bet on that? Yeah, I think ROI it's a tricky thing because certain things are measurable. I haven't seen many people measure brands well. But the ROI on, I guess, just in marketing in general is going to be, where can I get this money to work the hardest? And then is it worth it? So the results that we got, the ones we want. So, where's your next dollar go? If I can put $1 in, can I get more than $1 back? And what's interesting is what's not measured in ROI is the human capital that goes into it. that's the part that I was always raising my hand going, guys, this is not worth it.
Yeah.
This is not worth it. Those soft costs very, very rarely ever get put into the model. The amount of effort and grinding a team down that goes into making an ad that's good eventually because it didn't have a great brief or because the marketing team is inexperienced and didn't know what to do, didn't want to hear input, didn't want to, collaborate. Those costs are immeasurable. They take their toll for sure.
For sure.
But all you measure is the cost of media, maybe the cost of production. And then, did we get sales back? Did we get retained customers? Like, what did we get? So, ROI is no one's ever going to nail it. It's never going to be perfect. It'll be better. And data maybe will give you some better indications, but flooding the front and top of that funnel with just more assets that are just AI generated and just smarter guesses, and that's just a waste.
Yeah. My favorite email I've received in the past 10 years, it was an AI generated email.
Nice.
Congratulating us on this studio. And it was something, I should pull it up. So it was something about making different visuals and our ability in needle felting.
What?
Needle felting.
Oh,
I don't even know what that is.
Fantastic.
I'm like, I
We're
didn't
bringing
know
it back.
I'm a guru, didn't even know it. It's amazing. Yeah. So but there's a disconnect when it's even when you look at something, the untrained eye, and there's something wrong with it, even if you can't say why, your brain knows.
Totally.
And I feel like it goes to the written word.
Totally.
So anyway,
a lot of the news sites that I follow, I'm noticing they're switching their editorial photography team to AI stock. And you're like, okay, the headline was what went into the prompt. And the image they got back, no one even looked at it. They're like, yeah, push. Just publish this thing.
Yeah.
Push to production. And you can tell it just doesn't match. And you go, man, you're just losing the credibility of your journalistic angle and your edge. What separates you from someone else's point of view?
Integrity.
Yeah, it's just like, you're just losing that. It's not great. And how do you get that back?
Yeah. I don't know. You're right. The more you scroll, it's like the worst.
It's just garbage.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
As you go down even further, they put in effort for the first one.
But like, if you imagine you take all the news sites that are out there, and you take a headline of, we went back to the moon. Is there going to be the same image by then? Because it's a few years away, supposedly. Are we going to get the same image because AI is going to have learned, these are the words that match the right image because they've got feedback of this is not a good one, that's not a good one, that didn't get clicks. So AI is going to learn. I think the dream is AI is going to learn what works, what people want, but it's the same people talking about the same thing.
Sure.
So Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post technically could all have the same exact image that's AI generated because we've given AI all the data to crunch and feed and the things we like.
Yep. And that's your homogenized.
Exactly. It's all going to look
photo
the same.
that you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't intend to have you on here to talk about AI.
Good, because I'm not an expert. You're 4 cups of coffee.
Yeah, dude. What you are expert in is creative leadership, which is actually what I wanted to talk to you about. Cool. I've always thought, I remember going through the ranks when I was younger and thinking, man, I just don't have a mentor. And it felt like even from high school, I mean, for a long time, I had no mentor, and I knew I wanted to be in the creative space, but no one else was really there to help push me or do this, don't do that.
Yeah.
Here's a suggestion, take it or leave it. And you are one of the few mentors I've been lucky enough to have over the last probably 15 years.
Oh, cool.
And it's it's super appreciated. For reasons I don't understand, you took a chance on me when you had no reason to, right? But it's also the way you led big teams.
Yeah.
And I still hear people tell stories about you from, probably 10 years ago now, 8 years ago, 7 years ago. Great stories.
Yeah.
You're very well loved.
Oh, thanks.
You lead in a very different way. You lead human first.
Yeah.
And the one example I'll give, but there's plenty of them, By the way, most people remember you for walking down the hall, whistling, swinging your keys, and which is very strange for a corporate environment when it's high pressure all the time, right? But oh man, I just lost my train of thought.
That's so funny. Is that one I was getting thrown out?
I was going to use one example, and then I thought about that one, and I forgot my other example. Regardless, I would like to have your thoughts on creative leadership, and especially maybe since the past 5 years, because everything has changed from remote work, the style of work, the new technology. How do you look at leadership, creative leadership? How do you keep people motivated? How do you get the best work out of them? Because again, my opinion, but I think I'm not alone. When you have a leader that you are willing to get behind and go to bat for, and like you're always willing to give that extra 10, 20, 30%, and it's not a grind.
Yeah.
It's you want to do it because you know you have someone who's got your back. Oh, that's the example. Leading human first. You used to schedule one-on-ones with people, and the first thing you would say whenever I would walk in is, I don't want to talk about work.
Yeah.
First thing.
Yeah, we're here to talk about work all day long.
I know.
Yeah.
But that was just one example that, at least for me, resonated incredibly. And that's how we got to know each other. Probably more and more we learned we both like woodworking. We both like making things incessantly. We both don't sleep. You know?
Yep. 3 o'clock show.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, what is, over the years, what is your, I guess, theory on creative leadership? Where did it come from, and why is it important?
That's a great question. I think you summed it up in the beginning of just, it's people first. You know, with all the change in technology, remote working, onshore, offshore, nearshore, what didn't change is people. And then having worked in a lot of different places for a lot of different people, you start to collect the good parts of those leaders. And you're right. You always heard the phrase, like, people don't leave their job, they leave their manager, or they leave their leader. And you're right. If someone doesn't believe in you and doesn't give you the support, what are you doing this for?
Yeah.
And I always led with, I have to assume that people are good and that people want to do good work. They're proud of what they do. And just sometimes they need someone on their side. So, I've been in good situations, in bad situations, in rebuilding situations, in kind of restructuring situations. I mean, thankfully I've seen it all. I don't need to see anymore. So it was a great trip, great ride. But I always believe that people wanted to do good work for themselves. And then when you start to understand why they're there, and ask those questions like, hey, listen, I don't want to talk about work. There's plenty of meetings all day long, and we're going to talk about work later. Yeah. But I want to know, like, what do you want to do? What's going to get you excited? What have you been thinking about doing that no one believes in, no one's going to get behind, no one's going to support you? And the leader is not someone who's in a position to do anything except clear the path. Like, the leader doesn't have to be the best designer, the best videographer, the best director, the best. No, they need to be someone who can kind of read the field and just clear a path and give you the longest runway you need to do what you got to do.
Is it hard? I think that's one of the things that separates you from a lot of people. Was it hard to learn that, or did it come instinctually for you to keep your hands out of it and give people path and runway and space to, you know, maybe hit the gutter and bounce back in? Yeah.
That's a great question. It's a learned thing. You know, I think going back to what I said earlier, I always felt you should lead by example. So you should know how to do something, you know, and I say do something, meaning something creative, something technical, you know, on the technical side of the line. But even if you don't know how to do it, conceptually, you get the gist of how it gets done. And then after a while, it's like, okay, I can keep doing this. I can keep stepping in front of the team and saying, I got this. This is mine because I have the bigger title. And I think you're just an asshole at that point, because if everyone did that to me in my career, I'd still be a junior designer.
Right.
right? It's like if no one ever gave you a chance to try something, to stretch, to learn, to fail, to be like, oh, let's not do that again. That was really bad. It was embarrassing. It cost a ton of money. Didn't work. It was a failure. Whatever it was. So yeah, I believe the leader should know how to do it and know when they need to step aside.
Yeah.
When to just be a coach. Like put the bat down. Everyone else, you were great in your time. But you gotta just like let someone else get up there and help pass some of that along.
Yeah. That's a lesson I really, hopefully I've picked up from you, is trying to clear a path. I had a great team. Yeah. And watching them develop was so much fun. And watching them run with ideas is like one of the greatest feelings in the world. One thing I noticed, a byproduct of that, of getting out of the way, and it was a little bit tough for me at first.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started giving feedback, it was probably pretty prescriptive.
Yeah.
And then I learned to back off. And one of the things I think I love the most, that byproduct, is when you don't have criticism every step of the way, when you do speak up as a leader, they don't question you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, he actually is saying something. Maybe there's something to this. Let's develop it. Let's figure it out. Let's kind of crack this, because I don't have the answer. I just know something feels off.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
the other thing that I think a great leader, prepares you for your career, not just for the project.
Mm.
So I see a lot of folks who are they're worried about like what the team's going to look like, how they're going to show up today, and they can't see too far out.
Yeah.
But I said this on my first day at Staples, my first time through. I had a pretty good sized team. And my opening statement was, my job is to prepare you for your next job. And a third of the people heard that as, we're getting fired. Like this new guy's come in, he's going to just clear the deck. And I was like, no, I want all of you to have a portfolio and a resume that is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to retire here. Stop that thinking. That doesn't happen anymore. If you do, that's totally up to you. But all of you will move on. And so far, like looking back, that entire group has moved on.
Yeah.
And they've done great things. And this isn't because of me. It's because of just, they move on.
Yeah.
Business change, world change, life change, career change, they move on. But I said, you're here to learn and keep growing. And if I've done my job, you're being recruited by bigger, better companies, bigger brands, bigger agencies, or doing your own thing.
Yeah.
And it turns out that was it. Like, people were being recruited out. And I was like, this is fantastic. This is a great problem to have.
That's a hard sell, though, in a business-driven world.
Totally.
So, right? So,
like, what are you doing?
Smaller companies.
Why are you saying that?
Yeah, smaller companies, you can have that idea, and get it sold through, and people understand it. When you are looking at corporations that are big, that need to make the year over year. It's not just making money to get by; it's making the year over year, no matter what happened last year. I think that's part of why you have these transitions of leadership every couple of years. Generally speaking, what's the average lifespan of a CMO? Is it 3 years, 2 years?
Less than 2 years.
Yeah, it's wild. So like, they're not incentivized to play the long game.
They can't. There is no long game.
Right. I mean, so there's no fault there.
It's their own.
And so, I mean,
career.
And maybe a flaw in the system. It's hard to develop people, or it's hard to have a good reason to justify developing people on a big level when there's so much turnover. Yeah. It's still important, though.
It is, because, I mean, that CMO is going to hopefully go on to the next thing, and you'd want your reputation of saying, but while they were here, totally transformed the professional development of our team, raised our talent level, motivated people, got people excited about what they do. Yeah. Built the next generation of leaders. Yeah.
What's been one of the hardest, if you can say it, one of the hardest lessons you learned leading creatives?
There's it may not be solvable. I'm always trying to find the solution to something, but creatives and this is specific to like our background of a corporate environment. Creatives don't fit, right? We don't fit because we operate in the conceptual world, and the practical absolute world, the literal world is what makes the earnings per share go. So I was like the challenge of having to balance this. I had a creative director, Alexis, who used to call us flowers. And it was a charming term. And she was just like, yeah, I'm working with a bunch of flowers because everyone's just very delicate and unique and they need tending to. And it was a great metaphor, to how we operated in this corporate environment. But everywhere I've been, I've seen the challenge of creatives in more of a, marketing or merchandise or engineering led organization. Tremendous responsibilities, but they don't fit. It's not to say that they shouldn't be there. They just don't fit. So the challenge of a creative director is to groom and grow them and protect them, but also represent and support what the business needs and kind of having a boat on the dock, a foot on the dock and a foot on the boat. Boat on the dock's a bad idea, but a foot on either side. And you're just straddling this thing, trying to keep them from spreading too far apart.
Yeah, right. There's that dichotomy of you need to be the samurai. Sometimes you got to be the warrior, but other times you need to be able to write poetry too. Yeah. There's a time you need to defend your ideas and go to war.
Yep.
But then also there's knowing when to let your foot off the gas or whatever.
Yeah.
Foot off the throat, foot off the dock.
Foot off the
whatever it may be. Would you have any advice, like any tips for someone who's a new manager just getting into leadership? Because that is a big jump. When you go from being a doer to being responsible for people and the work.
Yeah.
Any insight, any like 101 leading creatives that you would give them?
It's a funny thing. There have been a few articles published around this. My buddy Rigo and I were talking about this not too long ago about the idea of your growth as a creative in a corporate environment is only to lead people, right? It's like, we're not going to pay you more because you're good at what you do. We're going to pay you more if you can manage more people and take more responsibility. And there was a term, and I'm blanking on it now. But it was talking about that. Like it's a industry, a creative industry is not something that follows the same path as maybe a corporate space. And so the idea of like it being an individual contributor is I guess to your answer, you got to want to be a leader. And some people can learn it for sure. Some people are they're so much better as an individual contributor, creative, just being a director, being a writer, being a designer. There aren't enough places that reward that growth because they're not done growing. Like they just continue to refine and become a master of what they're doing. But HR isn't built that way, right? HR and compensation don't look at people's contribution at an individual level for creativity and the art as something that should be rewarded and incentivized to say, no, you could make a shit ton of money being what you do, but better. And when you look at the corporate side, that means someone's going to sign up to generate more sales, create more income, to then pay that person to just keep doing what they're doing better. And so it's a real hard thing for people to mathematically solve.
Yeah.
But for someone who wants to be a leader, definitely try it. Like I wouldn't talk anyone out of it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But I would say only if you see yourself as being a leader. If you're doing it because it's the next title up and level up and bump and pay, be careful.
Right.
We've both worked with a lot of people in our past and in our future that are in the wrong position.
Yeah.
For the wrong reasons. And that's going to happen. Like it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
Those people are going to show up in every job, project, agency you work at.
Yeah.
But if someone's on the creative side and they want to become a leader, my advice is understand how the business works, understand what you're working with, give people a chance. Find the people who want to grow and develop and are capable of it. Give them more at bats. Give them more chances. Find the folks who need some help finding what their new path is. Be sensitive to that. No one is leaving because they're bad at what they do. They just might not be in the right place. So Jim Collins had this the author of Good to Great. He had this thing about, are you on the bus? Are you on the right bus? Are you in the right seat? So on the bus is like a commitment of like, no, I want to be here. This is what I want to do. And you go, are you in the right seat? Maybe you're on the right bus, wrong seat. Let's move you around. Let's give you something else. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier about like just kind of seeing people going, I know you think yourself as this, but have you thought about this other role? And giving them the space to kind of re-identify as like, well, maybe I'll give this a shot. And there's no failure, no pressure, no judgment for not being good at what they're doing. But maybe someone just needs to put you in a different seat.
Yeah. Man, I can't think of a better place to leave off than that right there.
I'm in a good seat right now.
I appreciate you coming in, man.
Thank you, brother.
Always great to see you.
I'm proud of you. You got something really good going on here, and you've got
thank you.
The courage and curiosity to do it.
Thank you. Again, I have a handful of people I've just been more than lucky to have met in my life, and you are one of them. And there are certain people, for whatever reason, however it works out, it's beyond me, that are just like those little pinball bumpers that just knock you in a certain direction. And then you just start to kind of move what feels like where you're supposed to be going.
Yeah.
And you were one of those for me. That's Thanks. Why I always enjoy our conversations. You have such a wide view on things, and it always seems right. And half the time when I leave conversations with you, I'm like, oh yeah, it seems like it's common sense, but sometimes you need to hear it, or sometimes I guess it just needs to be laid out in such a simplistic way that you can do, that it makes it like infallible. Like, of course, this is what the next step is. Anyways, man, I just really appreciate it. Like I said, our time together was, I think when I first met you, I was kind of scared of you a little bit because I wasn't sure what to think.
New guy.
I was pretty reserved at the time.
Yeah.
And, it's just been great ever since.
Well, you're following your passion. Maybe one of the, I don't know if this story's ever been told on your podcast, but
great.
You've got the.
Is this about the drill in the crawl space?
I hope no. I'll let someone else tell that one. Maybe this is needle felting. I don't know. You definitely felt something else. No, but you've got the heart of a teacher, and I'm not sure if anyone's ever told you that. And the first time I saw this, you were always in other people's cubes, like over their shoulder, pointing to something, and like, this is how you do it. This is check this out, try this. But the one time that I really saw this on display, and this was outside of work. You'll remember this because you didn't know this was happening, but you were early to your flight out to LA, and we were going to one of the YouTube conferences.
Yeah.
And I got to the gate. Stanley, I think, came to the gate as the door was closing.
That dude hits it in stride, and he does it every time. My nerves can't take that.
It's like TSA's nightmare. But anyways, you were there well ahead of boarding time, which was great. You had your laptop open, and you had a little kid. Mm-hmm. Like, I would say the kid was preteen, right? And the kid was like, not in a creepy way, like almost sitting in your lap, watching you on your laptop, and you're like, check this out. And you're showing this kid how to work,
Photoshop. He was super interested. Yeah.
And so you had Photoshop open. His parents were there. You're at the gate. You've got all your work gear ready to go, and you're calm and cool and composed, and you're like in this sensei teacher mode, showing this little kid Photoshop, and he's over your shoulder, and you're working on the escape room graphic, I think, at the time.
Yep.
So I happened to see this, and I was charmed by it. And you were definitely like unaware of anything going around you other than I'm at the right gate. And I'm in my comfort zone. This kid was just totally captivated by what this skill that you had, and this ability to translate it into their language, so that they could really get excited about it. guarantee that kid has moved on to cool creative things because of that.
I hope so.
So to me, that was an indicator of like, yeah, this guy's got a really good soul, the soul of a teacher, and the aptitude to, be able to translate this super complex thing to a kid that's inspired now to do it. The end of that story is because I saw the sneak peek as to...
I was going to bring this up. Just such a big move.
It totally was. It totally is. And that's a sign of comfort, right? So the story goes on to Andrew's been working on this project for months. And this is a big bet that we're going to take with the brand. And it was for Black Friday. And it was tapping into our influencers and using the new chip. I mean, everything about it was spot on, the right strategic and brand appropriate and courage taking project. So we were going to meet the next morning at the hotel. He had a PowerPoint already. He was ready to go. His team was around him. He's down again. He's the first one there, last one out. First one there. He's got the laptop up. He's prepared this presentation. He's ready to go. I come sauntering in with like a cup of coffee into the hotel lobby. He's got the laptop up. He's ready to go. He's like, we're so excited to present this to you. We're going to share this idea. I'm like, good. I can't wait to see an idea that's not a fucking escape room. If I see one more damn agency presentation that's an escape room, everyone is playing that thing so hard. It's overdone. It's overexposed. And his face, just like 6 months worth of work, because he was hiding this reveal to this moment, just drained out of his face. It was, and I knew
I
at that
just slammed
moment,
the laptop shut.
just like, that's all we got. And he's like, how did you know? And then I went back to myself. I saw you, I was able to sneak a peek at the airport.
Funny. That was mean.
It totally was mean. But man, one of the more successful projects that
it was great.
we ever did.
That was fun.
I mean, it continued for years to just rack up.
Yeah. I think it got 10 million views now. I mean, it's legit for a retail.
Well over that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for a retail video or a retail company video that didn't have a whole lot of promotion, it was,
Yeah.
Man.
But you had the courage to do it.
See, and then after that,
that's missing.
The next thing you know is we're boxing in the streets early morning in LA with the mitts.
That's right.
Going to check out murder sites together. The things you do on
trips.
shoots. Yep. Well, cool, man.
Climbing through the catwalks too.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have some of those pictures. That was wild.
Yeah.
That was so tall.
Yeah. We were 40, 50 feet above
super high.
Above the soundstage.
Yeah. Were we allowed to be up there?
No.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I don't think so. But
it was cool though.
We had a lot of cups of coffee. We were up early and we just needed to burn off some energy. So let's go into a dangerous. We may have had our tarot cards read that trip
we did.
Too.
What was your message? Do you remember?
I took a picture of it.
Did you?
It was pretty spot on.
Was it?
I was certainly a skeptic, but I was like, this person doesn't know me.
Yeah.
So either the randomizer worked, or I believed what I wanted to see.
Sure.
But
I don't remember mine.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I remember the tarot cards. I don't remember the message.
That was a fun trip.
Anyway.
Good all right, times. Man. Yeah.
I appreciate it so much.
I love you, buddy. Proud of you.
Keep kicking ass.
Absolutely.
Later, man.
Be creative. Be courageous.
At all cost.
Sounds good.